Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, in Venezuela. We begin talking about Bolivia because the Supreme Electoral Tribunal has confirmed that candidates from 8 different parties and alliances registered for the upcoming general elections on May 3rd. There are 4 alliances and 4 parties that will participate independently. The independent parties include the Movement Towards Socialism Party, Nationalist Democratic Action, Bolivian National Action Party, and the Front for Victory Party. The registered candidates may change their candidates until a few days before the elections. Also, the Movement Towards Socialism registered former President Evo Morales as candidate for senator. The candidates representing Bolivia's Movement Towards Socialism Party in the upcoming elections, Luis Arce and David Choquehuanca, presented their candidacies at the Electoral Court. The candidates for president and vice president were accompanied to the court by large mobilizations of popular sectors, including labor, campesino, and student unions. After presidential candidate Luis Arce made important denunciations regarding the political persecution and human rights violations registered after the November 10th coup.
On this occasion, I want to mention that the Movement Towards Socialism Party condemns and denounces the arrangement of our chief delegate to the Supreme Electoral Court. This is yet another trick of this de facto government that does not want us to participate in the elections. They will continue with their hostile attitude towards the mass IPSP party, our leaders of social movements and former government authorities. We greatly reject the arrest warrant that has already been circulated. We have the people on our side. We are the only party, the only political option that represents the interests of the most humble, our indigenous brother, our peasant brother, the impoverished middle class, who are increasingly impoverished by this government. You know what is happening in the economy, and that's one of the major reasons why we must win these elections.
And former Bolivian President Evo Morales has denounced that de facto government, which he refers to as a dictatorship, has ordered the arrest of his lawyer Wilfredo Chavez. Chavez has Morales' power of attorney after legal representative Patricia Hermosa was arrested on Friday and sentenced to 6 months preventative detention after carrying the documents required to register Morales as a legislative assembly candidate. Wilfredo Chavez is also the political delegate of the Movement Towards Socialism on the new Supreme Electoral Tribunal. And we move on from topic. U.S. military members and contractors based in Colombia reportedly raped 54 girls between 2003 and 2007, recorded most of the sexual abuses, and sold it as pornography material. The figures are part of a new report by the new Commission on the Conflict and its Victims made by the government and former FARC members. The report was created to determine the origins and multiple causes of the armed conflict in Colombia. It includes cases of U.S. interference, counterinsurgency, and state terrorism. The author of the report says there was impunity due to bilateral agreements and diplomatic immunity by U.S. officials. We keep on moving. Oil workers in Brazil continue their general strike against privatizations and massive layoffs by the government of Jair Bolsonaro. The Union of Oil Workers began the strike on Saturday, but is expecting more workers to join during the week. According to the union, close to 15,000 workers are already on strike across 12 states. They are protesting against the recent layoffs of almost 1,000 workers at the state-run oil company Petrobras. The strike closed 12 refineries on the weekend. The FtS Party, largest oil workers association that brings together 13 unions, announced that fuel supplies will not be affected by the strike. And we move on to Guatemala, where residents of Pueblo Nuevo, New Town, said goodbye to a migrant worker from the community who died in the United States. Her death is one of the over 100 Guatemalan migrant workers who died in the United States over the last year and whose undocumented status brings complications even in death. Let's find out more.
The community of Pueblo Nuevo, in the department of El Quiché, bids a final farewell to Reina Elizabeth Lucas, the first Guatemalan migrant to die in the United States in 2020. She was killed in a traffic accident in Oklahoma.
The body arrived here in Guatemala, and we held a holy mass in the house this morning. And right now, we are to say our final goodbyes here in the church.
Reina Elizabeth Lucas was a mother of 4 who was a migrant worker at a university in the United States.
She went to work at 7 in the evening and left at 6 in the morning. She had a clear vision for her life, and so we regret that this happened to her.
According to the ESKOM Development Association, ADESI, at least 17 migrant workers from the department died in 2019 while working abroad.
We had the bodies of 14 men and 3 women returned from the United States and Mexico. But the deceased are usually returned from the United States because that is where they were working.
As most of the deceased were undocumented migrants, family members don't receive fair compensations or even justice after their death.
I think it's important to seek support. It is fair to seek justice from a court for those who had died at work.
In 2019, the Guatemalan foreign minister recorded the death of more than 100 migrants in the United States.
And like this, with this information, we go for a first break. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Tulsa English and on my account at Laura Pitlesor. You stay with us.
Who's moving the chess man? What interests motivate the actors behind each event? The board is deployed there. Critical Move investigates every event from Monday to Friday. Only on Telesur.
We are back. Forces loyal to Libya's government of national accord have started mobilizing against Khalifa Haftar's so-called Libyan National Army. The government of national accord, a moored vehicle convoy, was seen heading towards Sirte, a coastal city controlled by Haftar. This latest potential offensive comes at the same time as a visit by military officers from both factions to the United Nations. They are there for talks aimed to securing a ceasefire after 10 months of fighting. And Malawi's constitutional court has nullified last year's presidential elections, calling for a new election. The court cited irregularities and deliberate alterations to the results, which made the elections neither free nor fair. According to the ruling, Peter Mutharika, who had been declared winner of the presidential election, now becomes unduly elect president. This landmark ruling comes after a petition by opposition parties and a series of mass protests over the disputed result.
So the judgment basically says the commission failed in that respect. And as a result of the failure of the commissioners, here we are. We've all gone through a lot of trials and tribulations, and we're probably going to go through more. But it should be a lesson for those that are accorded the privilege to serve the country.
At least 14 school children have been killed and several were injured after a stampede broke out in a school in Kenya. The cause of the panic has not yet been established, as Kenyan police are still carrying investigations. More than 40 victims have been hospitalized.
Children of our colleagues have died. 14 children, including 9 girls. It is very, very painful. Your colleagues' children are like your own. 5 ambulances took away the injured children. We are appealing to the government to help us.
And this week, government ministers, CEOs of mining companies and investors are meeting in Cape Town, South Africa for the 26th Investing in African Mining Indaba, the world's largest mining investment company. Let's find out more on the following story.
The theme of the Indaba is optimizing growth and investment in the digitized mining economy. Top of the agenda seems to be attracting global investors to coal-driven mining projects, despite trends of investors to support greener sectors. South Africa's Mineral Resources and Energy Minister Gwedi Mantashe gave the opening address at the Indaba. Afterwards, he spoke to journalists and fielded questions about South Africa's energy problems. He announced that it is time for a new entity to provide electricity and reduce the nation's reliance on the state utility ESKOM for its energy. He also warned that the transition from coal to renewable energy sources will not be a hasty process.
We're managing a fleet of 16 coal-powered generated power stations. If we take an attitude of destroy coal-powered generation immediately, we'll be taking a dangerous route because we are dependent on coal generated at this point in time, and therefore transition must be managed responsibly and carefully.
The 5-day event expects to host more than 6,000 participants, which include presidents, cabinet ministers, and at least 900 global investors. Johan Abrams for Telesur in Cape Town.
And now we change topic and we move from hemisphere. The U.S. primaries began this Monday night with the Democratic Party caucuses in Iowa. 11 candidates are vying for the party's nomination. The latest polls put Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders representing the right and left wings of the party in the lead. Both of them have 22% of the preferences.
This election is about 2 fundamental issues. First, it is absolutely imperative for the future of this country that we defeat the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country. And what that agenda says. Sanders! Sanders! Tomorrow night is the beginning. It is the beginning of the end for Donald Trump.
And the state of Iowa is 90% white, but the Latin American community is growing and could have an important influence in the election. The Sanders campaign has been making a big push to win over the Latino vote.
Because they know that our community is growing very, very fast here in the state of Iowa and is expected to double by 2050 here in the state. And so it's important for us to be engaged in the process, especially here in Iowa, because we have a significant Latino population. Across the country, every 30 seconds, a Latino turns 18 and is eligible to vote, and we will be the largest non-white voting bloc heading into the 2020 elections. and if they're going to recruit friends and family to.
I felt the pain in my community when Trump was elected because he just created these narratives, you know, that criminalized, stereotyped immigrants in the U.S. and I decided that maybe like for this year, I actually want to work on making sure that Trump doesn't get reelected.
And like this, we go for a second and very short break. Stay tuned with us.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursday, only on FtS.
为了保持身体健康，我冥想。
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Get your body. Tuesdays, only on FtS.
We are back with our news. Chinese health authorities have reported that the coronavirus death toll has risen to 425 in China as level 1 emergency response has been activated in 31 provinces of China. The National Health Commission also said that 20,471 cases were reported in China and 159 abroad. Meanwhile, at least 632 people have recovered, though experts warn of the risk of reinfection for the recovered. Confirmed cases, there have been confirmed cases in China. We will repeat the numbers: 425 in China and 1 abroad. Those are the deaths. And as we were saying before, there is level 1 emergency response activated in 31 provinces, autonomous regions, and municipalities on the Chinese mainland. The death toll from the novel coronavirus has risen, as we were saying, those updated numbers that we were saying before, to 425. This Monday in China denounced the decision by a number of countries to deny entry to people who have visited the country in the past 14 days. Beijing Ambassador for Disarmament to the United Nations, Li Sun, said such measures will not stop the spread of the virus, but only lead to the increase in stigma and discrimination against Chinese nationals. Earlier on Monday, the World Health Organization said that these measures unnecessarily interfere with international travel and trade.
The WHO's temporary recommendations do not recommend any travel and trade restrictions. We are all in this together. It concerns every country and everyone in this world. During the 2014 Western Africa Ebola outbreak, a high-level UN panel pointed out that taking excessive international travel restriction measures may lead some countries affected by the virus to stop voluntarily reporting information to the WHO out of fear of being impacted by potential restrictions. As mentioned by Dr. Tedros, we need facts, not fear. We need science, not rumors. We need solidarity, not stigma.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization has launched a campaign to combat the spread of fake news, false information surrounding the coronavirus. The United Nations Health Agency said it is working with social media firms to stop unverified news about the outbreak.
Combat the spread of rumors and misinformation. To that end, we have worked with Google to make sure people searching for information about coronavirus see WHO information at the top of their search results.
We move on from topic. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation has rejected U.S. President Donald Trump's so-called Middle East peace plan. The announcement was made during the organization's extraordinary meeting in Saudi Arabia. Speaking on behalf of members, Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Faisal al-Saud stressed the Organization of Islamic Countries' insistence on a comprehensive solution that guarantees the rights of the Palestinian people to establish a state with East Jerusalem as its capital. The 57 members body has also warned its members not to engage with the plan or to cooperate with the United States administration in implementing it in any form.
Saudi Arabia is supporting all the efforts to keep the wheel of negotiation moving and to achieve a fair solution for the Palestine cause. We believe that these efforts should have a final goal of delivering a fair solution for the Palestine people, to establish their independent country with Eastern Jerusalem as its capital in accordance with international legitimacy and decisions.
A court in Belgium has postponed the ruling on the extradition of the jailed Catalan leaders. The court was due to give its decision on the request made by Spain to have former Catalan President Carles Puigdemont and 2 former members of his cabinet extradited. The case will now resume on February 24th. Puigdemont is a Catalonia's regional leader during the 2017 independence referendum that led to a short-lived declaration of independence for Catalonia. He fled to Belgium after being forced out of office by the Spanish government.
What we're asking for is that Spain respects the decision of the European Court of Justice of December 19, which Spain does not do. This is why we're asking for the cancellation of the European arrest warrant. The prosecutor, however, wants to suspend the procedure in order to wait for the European Parliament to make a decision before the discussions in Brussels on the European arrest warrants against Puigdemont and Comín. We refuse this. The Belgian judge must immediately make a decision and cancel the European arrest warrants, which manifestly violate European law and the right of immunity.
With this information, we come to the end of News Prep, but remember, you can always find this and much more other information on our website, closerenglish.net, where you can read opinion articles, watch special interviews, do follow-ups to the most outstanding information happening in the world, like updates, the latest update related to the coronavirus outbreak in China, and how is China and the world dealing with it. Also, you can find more news about the oil workers' strike in Brazil, and of course the impeachment process to President Donald Trump, the process of elections in Bolivia, and many more information that we produce especially for you. The invitation is made. You continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thoughts. Until next time, thank you for watching.